All right. Hey, everyone. So welcome back. Sorry for
Yes,
the,
sorry about that.
we had a little bit of a late start, but good to be back. Jenna, audio,
Yes,
visual, it's all working. We're here.
it's all working.
So I think, today we just want to have a little bit of a hangout, sort of a check-in, recap the last week, hang out with you guys, see what you're up to, what you're enjoying, and whatnot. What about you, Jenna? So what are you going to start off with today, whiskey-wise?
So I'm going to start off with one of my personal favorites from a current personal favorite, which is 95.32. I mentioned it in our last stream that we had, and this whiskey has it's got me. I really love the Young and Sprightly flavor profile. It's one of my favorites, and I've had a few whiskeys out of this flavor profile that I just absolutely love. And this one, so Blondie Bombshell. So this particular bottle is actually part of our one of our new membership bundles. And so it is the best way for me to describe this whiskey. It's like a carnival or like a fair in a bottle. So you get like funnel cake and cotton candy and, like candied nuts and just a lot of those really kind of just fun, summery carnival like flavors. And so I'm really into this, and it's at 66%, which sounds like crazy and high, but it doesn't drink.
It is crazy and high.
It is. And like for me personally, I love really aggressive whiskeys. That's just like what I'm into, but this doesn't drink like it's 66% at all. Right. I would guess this more in like the 55 range. And I don't know if that's just because my palate's been abused so much that it like can't tell, but it's really good. So
yeah, either way, a pretty high one. The Young and Sprightly, these are the flavor profile for these. Well, I think it's as advertised. So it's really intense, really spirit-driven whiskeys. I just think there's a time and a place for me. It's not every day. I go for it, but it's when I really want to just sort of a jolt. And for me, it's like a weekend. The sun shining. I think it's perfect. But yeah, so everyone, welcome back to take two on the virtual vaults. Yeah, Mark brought up. All right. Mark, I'm sure you've probably in your Scotch for Dummy days experienced a few technical difficulties here and there. But anyway, growing pains. Lee Morrison says he's enjoying 95.32 as well.
Yay!
So, you guys. I'll pour myself a dram as well. But you guys want to sort of geek out over that one?
Yeah. So Lee, if you don't mind kind of chiming in on what you get from it, are you getting those like cotton candy, funnel cake type of notes on this, or are you getting something a little different? And do you find it to feel like a 66%, or does it feel less in the ABV category to you? I'd be curious to know.
And Alec Rogerson also says he picked that one up with the membership. So
yes.
Alec, did you get yours yet as well? I'm just curious if you're tasting it along. You went with us, and then Bill is here. Good to see you, Bill. Cheers from Austin, Texas. And so yeah.
So what are you gonna drink? What are you pouring?
I was thinking. So this past Monday, if you guys caught that, Jen and I did an outturn preview tasting. We just released our outturn this past week, but there's a lot of whiskeys here still that I'm just getting to know a bit more. But I was actually thinking of doing a bit of a blast from the past or a walk down memory lane.
Okay.
And so I'm pulling out an older bottling. This it's cask 4.224.
Oh, that's like an oldie bottle.
Yeah, we released this in the US a few years ago. It was before I was working for the team here. I was just a member. It really stuck out at me at that time. 4.224. It's called Evocations of Time and Place. 20-year-old
nice.
Highland from a second fill Sauterne hogshead. Bottle at 54.5%. So interesting, 20 years old, Sauterne, this type of French oak that I just love. And with a little bit of sort of coastal peat in it. So
nice.
Kind of a lot going on. So that's what I'm going to.
That sounds good.
The weekend with, yeah. So
I don't have many of the old style bottles. This is probably, oh no, this was 93.73.
That's kind of like a hybrid. That was when the label was new with the
look at your label, and then this label it's kind of the progression.
I don't know if there's any sort of intrinsic value, but I feel like the hybrid labels, there are a few of those, and those are like super rare. Anyway, so cheers everyone.
Yes, cheers.
Cheers to the weekend, and Jenna and I both need to dram quite a bit. So
All right, so Lee said it did feel less than 60%. I like it with the dash of water. Oh, I get new fryer oil aroma, chocolate and strawberries. Oh, I got to try it with water to see if I get any of that chocolatey-ness. But yes, the new fryer oil aroma, that's probably where I'm getting that funnel cakey, you know, smell of a carnival or a fair. So, yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, Alex says, also got the Amaretti and Krupniks because it was thankfully still available. I was in the shopping cart buying a conversation piece, and then I checked it. I was sold out. Hey guys, look, yeah, I mean, that's a really good point on that. You know, this last Tuesday we had our out turn. We've been kind of blown away by this on our end. We didn't really anticipate this, but there's been sort of an extraordinary demand for our last out turn, and actually the second in a row. So our apologies, first of all, for the fact that our whiskey's selling really, really fast right now. I promise we're trying to do everything we can on the back end to make sure that you guys have your whiskeys available and can choose the ones you want. On that note, though, I'm pretty excited for what is to come, and as we're growing, we'll be able to account for that. But I mean, on the other hand, I guess we should thank all of you because of your enthusiasm and support for what we're doing. We've been able to continue growing and offer more whiskeys. So I really appreciate the support in that sense. And just know that as a club, our promise is to really make sure you have a great selection of whiskeys at all time. It's just, I think with everybody at home,
everyone's home.
The whiskey as a really whiskey exploration is a great hobby. It just, yeah, it's that.
This is too, like being home is a really good time to really take your time to get to know a whiskey. You know, maybe during the week you gotta, you know, finish a deadline or get to bed or get your kids to bed or make dinner or whatever the case is. But, you know, now that we're home, it's a really good opportunity to really be able to sit and take your time, you know, with the whiskey. So this is the perfect time for it.
Yeah, and Mark, it is, yes, which number it is. It's 4.224. You can see that. Evocations of Time and Place. I quite like that name.
Yeah. I like Distillery Number 4. One of my first Society bottles was a 4.
Which one?
Volcanic Jam.
Oh yeah.
I still have it. I actually just had some the other night with Emanating Petrichor was the other one.
It's funny because like remembering, listen, there's been so many like great whiskeys over the years, and it's funny remembering these because there's some names that I will never forget, and like I won't think about them consciously, but if you just when you say them.
Yeah.
Like Volcanic Jam. I haven't thought about that one in a couple of years, but oh yeah, that was amazing.
Oh yeah.
I can remember what it tasted like. Oh, hints of salinity, a little bit of sherry. I think it was 15 years old. Yeah. Anyway.
Yep. 15-year ex-sherry.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. Right on.
Good one.
All right. So Greg says, awesome to see you guys. Good to see you, Greg. Thanks for tuning in. And again, apologies for the late start, but we're glad we're here to kick off the weekend. What do you guys, and I'm curious, you know, just thinking about this, I think I posed a question similar to this in our last session, but kind of revisiting this one has me thinking, what are some of the standouts for you guys over the past few years or ever, you know, it could be back in the early days or even just this last year. I know we have some new members here as well. What are some that have really stood out to you? And I guess for whatever reason, you know, this has been one that's been in my mind since I first had it, but,
Mark says that Mark Broda says that he loves Volcanic Jam too.
Yeah, you guys have similar palates, I think.
We do.
Mark, I'm sure you guys know it's confusing now because we have Drew from Scotch 4 Dummies online right now with us, and then Mark is also one of the Scotch 4 Dummies. He's one of the 4 dummies, so we got double dummy duty.
The 4 dummies.
Yeah, Volcanic Jam was great, but it's been a while. I think these distillery 4s are you don't see them as often anymore. Mm-hmm. But I think, okay, we can't give anything away, but I think there's exciting stuff, you know, down the line for sure. So.
Yeah, these single casks have been some of my favorite across the board that I've had from Distillery Number 4. They've been pretty special. Holding on to them. What
else, Jenna, have you been sort of exploring? Where's your interest these days? I know, I mean, for me, it fluctuates, but.
Yeah. So personally, just the art of blending for one, and really is trying to train my palate. So I remember when I first met you and like the first time you and I ever did a taste, like not like a formal tasting, but I remember when you were here in LA and I can't remember where we went, but Kat brought something to, she's the brand ambassador for Warbringer, and she brought something back from Scotland and she blind poured it. and you were just able to be like, it's this, it's this year. And we were all just like, all of our jaws were on the floor. And we were like, how does this guy do this? Like you're just able to be able to pick it out. So I'm really trying to train my palate to be able to do that. And so I'll have, my husband blind pour something for me to just see, even if I can get like one of the things right, like this is a Brooklotti, this is an Pedro Jimenez cask or whatever the case is. And I think that's a lot of fun to do at home. If you have somebody who's able to maybe pour something for you blind to see what your palate picks up without, knowing what it is you're drinking. So that's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's interesting palate development, like when I started off, first of all, I was tasting flavors and whiskeys that I'm not tasting now, or now on the opposite, I'm able to pick up flavors and aromas that I couldn't quite find before. It's interesting how the palate evolves in time. And I think in a lot of ways, I was turned off by a lot, but then I've come to love. But yeah, we were sitting at this bar one night and she pulled that out, and
yeah,
it was an old, I think it was an old Bunnahabhain.
It was.
It's such a unique profile. So I'm not like this whiskey Rain Man like she thought I was in that night.
We all thought you were in that moment.
I appreciate that. But it was just it was one that sort of just stood out. It was a unique profile. Like you can nail it down. Like it's obviously an island whiskey, but it wasn't really smoky. And there are just a few who are kind of adopted that style and had the qualities of a really old whiskey. So anyway, that's
But it's fun to test yourself and to see, what you can pick out, like what your palate does know, in that moment. So that's fun. It's fun to do. So if you're at home, grab a bottle, and if you have somebody there to pour it blindly for you, give it a go.
Do you find that you're improving in that? Like as you're with practice, is it helping the practice?
Yeah, I'm trying to expose my palate to as much as I can, not just in whiskey, but in food and just flavor, just so I can, try to familiarize myself with as many things as possible. But yeah, over the past, year, I've seen a big improvement. Now when I do get it right, I get so excited, like I should win a medal or something, because I'm proud that my palate's getting to that point. But yeah, it's just practice. You just got to keep practicing.
Yeah, Griffin Wright says 29.250 Peat Fire Flame. I love that name. Peat Fire Flame was my first, relatively new, and I wish I had many more bottles. I think that's, Griffin, I think that's the dilemma with all of these. It's like we have one, we want them to last forever, and they're so limited. But look, on that front and on regarding to that, just in general, there's always more. There's more coming down the line. Exactly. And so that, at least for me, that really got me into it. And I'm going back to before I was working with the team. I was just a member myself and really enthusiastic about it. Not that I'm not now. I'm just, just from that perspective. But there's always more. So, and then Zero Page X says agave-induced invigoration, 51.10 is stellar. That was.
I didn't taste that.
That was one of the rare Irish malts. Yeah. Pretty interesting. So
we got a backup. Lucky guy.
Yeah. Girl. And Jerry says open 53.309 last night, put me right back on Isla. Yeah, that's another one, sort of like the Peat Fire Flame. Is that actually, you know what? I think I might go in that direction next, but
to the peat side.
Yeah, I've got a little now, but I think there's a time and a place for it, and when you want it, nothing can come close to it, So
very true. And then the red diesel that Griffin mentions.
Yeah, the 93. So that was if I remember, it was a 13-year-old peated Campbelltown, double matured in American oak and port.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people just in the community talking about that particular bottle. So it must have been pretty special.
Red diesel was good. Yeah, for sure. Whiskey and Donuts is here. Whiskey Rain Man, yes. Guitar repair.
Hi, Johnny.
I think you called me out, rightfully so. Hey, Richie Z, good to see you. So.
Hi, Richie. All right, so you're going Pete next.
Well, I don't know. I've sort of. It's nice to revisit things from time. I think this is given our circumstances, I love exploring new things always. I don't want to take away from that, but it's kind of nice to go back and pause for a year or two and then revisit something that you hadn't had for a while and sort of remember it or experience it in new ways. So I've poured a bit of I've pulled a bit of a sort of highlight reel for myself with some others.
Oh, another oldie?
I brought another oldie. This is a 29.206.
Nice.
Popeye at Trafalgar, 19-year-old Isla refill hogshead.
I'm going to go with you to Pete because it doesn't take much to, you know,
going right to it.
Out of Pete. All right. So I'm going to go with, and there's like literally just a sliver left that I'm hanging on to. But this is 33.136.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
wow.
this was our release from our 35th anniversary back in 2018.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've been hanging on to this since then, really. So I guess now it's Friday and it's a good day to pour it out. So I will go with you. Did anybody else get this 33.136 out there?
I think that was a hard one to come by for the 35th. Yeah.
Yeah.
There are not many 33s out there in general, but
no, not many.
So give us a whirl. Give us your impressions.
Okay. I haven't had this in so long. It's been a while.
Well, let's impromptu.
All right, let's do it. So nose is, it's kind of classic, 33. The thing I love about 33.
What is? I'm sorry, Jenna. What is it though? I mean, specifically, what's the age?
So it's a 10-year, 10-year first fill ex bourbon at 57.1%.
So first fill ex bourbon barrel. Oh, nice, nice.
So one of the things I love a lot about 33 is it's kind of industrial in a way, like oily, like actual like motor oily and kind of dingy and just very industrial. And I really love that on the nose when it comes to these. So, all right, I'm going to taste it. So, yeah. Okay, give me a minute.
Well, take a minute. So I'm just kind of curious. So Greg
Yeah.
Bone, favorite so far, 93.114 barbecue and fishnets. Have a couple of SMWS bottles I haven't opened. You have the self-control I do not have because I don't think I have any that are not open. Well, maybe a couple that I've been saving for special occasions, but I think usually I'm opening them right away. Justin Izzo says, great choice. On the 29.206, he has 29.154. 23 years old. Wow, that's a pretty special one. Waiting in the wings. All right, right on. And what else are you guys enjoying? Zach says maybe I'll pour some 33.137 to sip along with you. I think that was similar to the one you're enjoying, but anyway, have you come to your own sort of?
Yeah. So nose and palate match so beautifully on these. Again, very just industrial. I feel like I should be like, I don't know, about to like steal a car or something, like in a warehouse, like on a dock somewhere with Nicolas Cage, like getting ready to go steal a.
Wait, keep going with this. I like Nicolas Cage.
I'm just thinking, it makes me think of like Gone in 60 Seconds, where I should just be in like some warehouse where like the floor is wet. And there's like old cars and like tough guys and tattoos, and that's this whiskey. All
right. I mean, I think it's brilliant. I mean, I would read that on the label. Like that's
this feels like it's mobster whiskey. This is it. Eleanor, that was her name. Eleanor, the car.
And then Gone in 60 Seconds. Yeah. I'm going to finish this one. I haven't poured my own Isla as well. I've sort of been enjoying this 4.224 evocations of time and place.
You got to give us your notes now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'll move on. So
maybe you'll get some Keanu Reeves and not Nicolas Cage in that one.
Yeah, in the meantime, just kind of a curious question I'd like to pose to everybody. I mean, obviously, as we're all enjoying this whiskey, what else have you guys been doing to keep busy and or sane, I guess, during this sort of lockdown? I mean, for me, it's been fun to sort of, really get into the whiskey really deep and levels that I haven't before, but trying to also pick up other things, just sort of to stay fresh as well.
You play the guitar, right?
I attempt. Yeah. I mean, I really did as a kid, and I grew up playing, and sort of get, like, I dare say grew up, because I regret my decision to sort of step away from it. But at the time, I thought I was really prioritizing my time, and I neglected it. And so, over the last few years, I've sort of picked it up, and I don't know, just sort of, I've gone into it more again. But I also like working on guitars, and so just modifying them, doing electrical wiring, and so I've been in this habit of pouring a dram and sort of just like getting the solder iron out and inevitably screwing some things up with the pickups in an electric guitar. And anyway, it's been a funny thing, kind of getting I like this idea of going back to your roots in some ways, just in life. I've been doing that sort of in adulthood with whiskey. Like, as I'm going back to some old favorites, it's nice to revisit things and kind of experiencing them in new ways. But
let's see. Alex says he's into photography. Richie, let's see, listing on eBay. Justin's running a lot and teaching yourself to code. That's awesome.
Alex says self-reflection, looking at my ceiling. All right.
That too. Yeah.
Zach says he's about to pour SMWS, just have to decide which one. Well, if you want to throw out some options, we can let the community decide.
Happy to chime in.
This is what I'm having now. So another blast from the past. Another flashback. Flashback. So this is 29206, 19 years old. It's called Popeye at Trafalgar. Refill Hog said 49.8%. Those Isla whiskeys, the alcohol share is pretty high. The ABV goes down as they get older. Quite quickly. But so
I like the name on that one.
Popeye at Trafalgar.
Yeah, that's a good name.
It says here the nose. I know you like reading the labels. The nose is maritime and masculine. Rock pools, lemon juice on oysters, and the burning fleet at Trafalgar, like the Battle of Trafalgar, which is scorched wood, tar, gunpowder, the palate, blackjacks, lavender, licorice, ash, and salts, an eye-rolling, bicep-bulging Popeye hero of a dram. Wow.
No spinach.
No spinach, but interesting shout out with the eye-rolling.
Yeah.
There's just something about these old Islas. Like, I love like when you have the 10-year-old Islas, that's just really aggressive, but these older ones are just so serene, and you kind of scale back the peat over time. And in doing that, just reveal that sort of maritime character beneath it. And there's just so much going on.
I never really realized that, in older Isla whiskeys until actually I think there was a 25-year 29. I can't remember which cask it was. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. But this was like over 2 years ago. And it was just like so like almost exotic tasting. Like the peat, it wasn't sharp in any way. It wasn't aggressive in any way. It was just so mature and so just like laid back in its delivery. And that was, I think, the first time that I really started to realize, because I've had some older Islas, since then, that they really do just kind of calm down the older they get. Like,
there's definitely, like, it's interesting how peated whiskey evolves in time. Like, it's young and peaty at the start, but eventually the peat mellows out and becomes some sort of tropical almost. Like, there's this really bizarre evolution that happens around 20 to 25 years. And I'm just generalizing. And then sometimes it comes back and gets intense at peaty again at like 30 years old. Mm-hmm. And then when you go beyond that, well, you're just lucky to be drinking it, in my opinion. Right? So I don't have much experience beyond, but yeah, it's fantastic. So.
And do you feel like that's different than, like, say, a Speyside or a Highland? Do you feel like kind of Isla whiskeys mature very differently than, and obviously everything's going to mature differently because of, their location, and there's so many factors, but
I think if you go back to this idea that peat sort of subsides over time,
right?
And like in this one, this is a 19-year-old Isla, and it was really heavily peated and intense at its young age, and so if the peat subsides, what's left is really the spirit beneath it, the pure spirit without the peat influence, and so then you're kind of getting into the regional and sort of geological effects of Isla beneath it. And I quite like that, just the pure Isla spirit beneath the peat smoke, which is very different from like a mainland peated whiskey in general. So yeah, I think they're different. So yeah.
All right, I'm gonna read through. Dipsy Russell is paintballing the neighborhood kids and yelling at them to get off.
As your activity, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a good one.
So I'll tell you guys too, and I'm curious to hear. We mentioned this last time, but Jen and I are going to be doing a lot of different streams, not just like this. This today we just want to do a sort of a casual hangout. Start to the weekend. Next week, if you may have noticed that we sent an email out about this, I will be doing a series of master classes, and we're going to get a bit more in depth and really sort of we'll each have a set of 3 different whiskeys, and we'll be tasting along with different society members who have ordered themselves the bundle that we'll be featuring. It's a bundle of 3 different whiskeys each, and so we're to make the effort to go really in depth, sort of all geek out together on that sense. But we're also just in addition to that, we're working, just not to give anything away, but we're working on different interviews with sort of various icons in the industry who are to come in and talk to us just about their expertise. But we just want to hear from you. What would you guys like to learn about? Obviously, there's a lot of content creators related to whiskey, but the society is in a unique position in that we sort of represent all of it, and we have access to obviously a lot of single cask whiskeys and the learnings that come from that. So anyway, drop us a comment, or now or on the replay regarding what you want to see. So we'd love the feedback.
Yeah, feel free to send us an email too. If you feel you want to shoot us one of those to let us know. Give us a call.
Yeah, Sipsy says, "My goodness, 35.245 smells like a cherry cough drop in a glass." Which one is that? Is that the newest one? The 35?
35 point.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
If so, there's it's 35.245. Okay, so that is the one that was just released, a conversation piece. Yeah, it was just released on Tuesday, which was from Chenin Blanc. Oh, you have the bottle. Okay. Yeah. It's just so rich and decadent. It's such a luxurious experience just tasting it. But I guess a cherry cough drop is luxurious too. But it's so unique, and I totally agree.
Yeah, that one went quick, and that one's special. That was a really beautiful whiskey.
Alec Rogerson says, "I want to learn how to grow facial hair like Ben." Well, man, it comes down to genetics and a quarantine. And I think you pair the two together, and the fact that you don't have to go out in public and you just get it. I work hard on a lot of things, and this is just one I get lucky with, I guess. So anyway, yeah.
Is that your Waterford glass that you're drinking out of?
It is, yeah. I've all my society tasting glasses are at the office, and for obvious reasons, I'm not there right now. Behind me, but yeah, this is the Waterford distillery glass for my visit last year. And do you pick one up as well?
I didn't.
Yeah, Waterford's a new distillery in Ireland that has opened up recently, and Jen and I both had a chance to visit. You were there last year as well, right?
I was there last year. Yeah, last April.
Yeah,
so a year ago now.
What's been your most memorable sort of whiskey distillery visit or trip?
Honestly,
where would you like to go?
Probably that one.
That one, yeah.
Yeah, that one was really fantastic. I think it just gave me such a huge just understanding of the actual spirit, which I don't feel like I really like. You can understand it. You can teach yourself, and you can research, and you can ask questions, and you can taste as many things as you can. But being there and really having like the raw ingredients and that raw new make just in front of you to really taste through the different, terroirs essentially of all their different farms just totally blew my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, that trip was probably the biggest learning experience in whiskey I've had to date. And so what about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard been fortunate to have traveled quite a bit for whiskey. Obviously on behalf of the society, and even before that.
Right.
There's nothing like going to a place to see it.
No.
But it's funny because I'm thinking out loud here, and yeah, there were some really memorable trips. But on the other hand, I had really learned quite a lot about whiskey without ever actually leaving my hometown to visit a distillery. Right. There's nothing like going there and seeing it for yourself and touching and tasting the new mixed spirit. But honestly, through YouTube and Instagram, and and just reading about whiskey, I was really able to get a good sense of place virtually, and I'm not just saying that because we're doing a live stream and we're in quarantine right now. It's not essential. Like, you can have the experience without actually physically going there. But if you have a chance to go, I would just, going to Scotland is amazing. I've always had to do it, but I don't know what. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of curious. I'd love to know too what everyone thinks. Some people, say that it wasn't until they visited a distillery for the first time that it really clicked, or it was a specific whiskey, or I don't know.
Yeah, and what's on your radar in terms of what do you want to experience next? Like, what's going to make you take your whiskey interest to the next level, if there even is one?
Personally, I really want to just continue learning as much as I can about the history of whiskey. I think it's really important, and it's not an area that I know well enough to say I know it well, I guess. I want to definitely dig into that more and like really know the nitty gritty of the whiskey. And that's just whiskey in general, whether it's, Scotch, Irish, bourbon. I want to know that better, and I want to keep doing my research on terroir.
Yeah.
That's just something that has really just, has me very interested. And so I'd like to keep digging into that and getting into blending to learn how that magic happens. So
yeah, I'm in this new sort of interest of exploring American single malts a bit. I think I was writing about that, on Instagram today. Yeah. It's a new sort of, obviously as an American who loves malt whiskey, like, I've always wanted the American single malt category to really just prosper.
Yeah.
But like any new category, it takes time, and so the spirit hasn't quite, it's been hit or miss for the most part. But I've, lately, we don't reveal the names of our distiller partners just to protect them. And a lot of times the whiskey we put out is very different from what they're putting out. And it also lets us get whiskey from some distilleries who don't typically sell casks. So it's kind of a win-win for our members. But we did release a Texas single malt. We'll leave it at that. Recently, that was just like, that's what it triggered it for me. I thought, okay, wow, there's real potential here in the U.S. So lately I've been exploring, like I said, it's been a hit or miss. But that's kind of where my attention is right now. I really, really want that to succeed, So.
Well, I think it's growing. I think we have some great distilleries out there, that are doing American single malt. So it'll be interesting to see where that category is in, 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, Justin Izzo says, Alec, I think it's a wine cask. 35 is always doing some crazy cask experience. Just to clarify, a lot of times, almost every time when you see a society whiskey that has been double matured in 2 different casks, oftentimes we'll actually take the casks as are, and then we go around really the world now and source amazing casks and just looking for different wood, bring it back to Scotland, and then we'll experiment with the finishing ourselves. So if you see something that's been finished or double matured, as it's technically called, it's often our spirits team who is experimenting and then putting forth samples for the tasting panel to pick on. So that one, that was a Chenin Blanc that was then transferred to what we call a designer barrel, which was had virgin oak heads, like a really kind of a bit of an enigma.
Number 4 char.
Yeah. We were owned by a big spirits brand until 2015, and when the society went independent again, we've sort of gotten the creative juices flowing and have been having fun in that sense. So
I'm always a big fan of those cask finishes. I think they're just fun to try. It's just fun to expose your palate to that stuff. So I'm excited to see more of those come out in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine too, if you're kind of to be over there and obviously work on the UK side, it's managing the spirits. There's tens of thousands of different casks, and how much fun it would be to just sort of experiment with, going to Spain and get in the wood, bringing it back and say, I think this will taste good in this one. Let's have a go at it. And you never know what you're going to come up with. It's amazing. That would
be a fun field trip for us to take.
That would be a fun field trip. I hope there's some field trips again someday soon.
I know.
So I got others, yeah.
Let's see. So Erwin is asking if I have been to Lost Spirits in the Arts District here in LA. And yes, I have many times. That is a very fun experience. If you're here in LA, they're always good fun, and they do some pretty wild and crazy things over there. I think there's a boat ride, and there was a carousel, and there's all kinds of cool stuff over there. So if you're in LA, go visit Brian and Joanne. They're pretty brilliant.
Oh man, it's funny tasting on YouTube because I'm always engaged and I'm just hanging out here, but
I know.
I gotta, after every YouTube stream, I have to like step away, turn off the lights, and go revisit some of these whiskeys because this is a stellar dram. It's 29.206. You don't see many of them around, but 19 years old Isla it's just killer right now.
Wow.
And what else do you guys pick up from the outturn this week too? I'm just curious. I know we have the 35245 was a popular one.
That was popular.
Yeah.
What else? The 135.16. That one was a popular one too.
That was.
Yeah.
Have you been revisiting any others from since Monday?
No. I'm trying to think what's behind me. The 108.18, which was from I guess 2 outturns ago. The pancetta roulette.
Do you mind showing that one? I think I've sampled that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was 7-year-old.
Yeah, this is the peated Speyside.
Yeah.
I really like this one. The mouthfeel on this is just dreamy. So I've been revisiting that one. And the 13.80, that one's fun.
So, wait, what is that? Do you mind showing?
Yeah, that is a 12-year Highland. But this is an oily and coastal distillery 13, which is not common, at least that I've seen.
Yeah.
So
Northern Highland Distillery, probably near the water's edge, I would say, probably.
Yeah.
You know.
So 13.80 first fill ex-bourbon. This is at 61.3%. And this has been very fun. So if any of you pick this up out there, one, I'll be talking about it in my master class next week. And 2, it's just a really fun, really good dram. So those are the 2. You know, I like that oily and coastal peaty. Those are like my 3: young and sprightly, peated, oily and coastal.
That's your triad. Yeah. I mean, mine's been changing. I think it's funny. I don't want to say this, that I shied away from the peat, but there was some time where I said, okay, look, that's been my backbone for years.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go into the more sort of subtle, complex, more nuanced Speyside whiskeys. And now I'm kind of back. Now I'm kind of just an open book. I'm more open than I ever was, which is interesting as you think as you go along and become more familiar with something, you
more
become
dialed
more
in.
opinionated. Yeah, right. But I feel like it's weird. I've been so exposed to so many different whiskeys, and I'm kind of an open book at this point. But Justin Izzo says, I'm tempted by G 8.11 this month's outturn. That's the one we just tasted the other day. Yeah. What did you think of that one?
Somewhere. Let's see. Yes, that's this one. I know we still have a few left.
Yeah, so 30-year-old. And these single grains are fantastic because you can get really old ones for, I think, great value. You know, relative to them all too. But they're so different too.
And then this one, ex-bourbon, you know, this is a refill hogshead, and the notes on this were just totally unexpected. Nose and palate on this did not match at all. And when you taste it, it's like you can't help but react and surprise because it's this is a surprise whiskey.
Yeah,
that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think a lot in this selection, like I've been surprised by it. It's and I recognize this. It's sometimes it's tricky when you don't taste the whiskey to actually really know. Like, but you know, am I going to like it or not? I think the good thing is. I've come to really enjoy the sort of the guessing game in a way and being surprised, you know, and when we did our tasting on Monday and we hadn't tasted, I think collectively we tasted a couple of the five that we tasted.
Yeah.
And being sort of blown away and being totally surprised by these, what I think on paper are like underdogs.
Right.
I think that's what it's about for me. You know, it's like about just exploring things that is not rated just on brand and age. It's just on its own merits. So I'm pretty pumped about that one.
Yeah, that one was a big surprise, tasting that and kind of, you know, having that experience when you think by the nose it's going to be a very different experience and it goes the other way. That one was a lot of fun. So, and that's, I'm not, you know, I don't have a lot of exposure to grain whiskey, like just strictly like single grain whiskey. So to be able to taste that is a treat.
Obviously, I take it malt is kind of your preferred style, but
Yes.
bourbon is also on your radar. I know a lot too.
Yeah, I'm when I first got into whiskey, I wasn't a huge fan of bourbon. I just found it too sweet, and I'm not a fan of like super sweet drinks. I love sweets. Like I could eat cake every day for the rest of my life and be the happiest person in the world. But when it comes to forming drink, I don't like drinks that are really sweet. And I always found bourbon to be super sweet. But as time has gone on and my palate's developed and I've just been exposing myself to new things, I have found so many bourbons that I just am over the moon about. So it's, you know, you just gotta, it takes time. It takes time for your palate to adjust and grow and expand. And so it'll be interesting to see what I'm into a year from now, 6 months from now. So
do you find that like exploring these spirits changes your, I don't, this is kind of a random question, but do you find that exploring these other spirits changes your opinion of, say, that those that you're more familiar with, like Scotch whiskey or just malt whiskey in general?
Like with bourbon, I still gravitate, like my first pick still is Scotch. Like that is what I gravitate towards, you know, with malt. And that is, you know, that hasn't really wavered. And so, no, I think it just gives me a bigger appreciation for everything else. So when I was in Barbados, the beginning of like last year.
Oh yeah, you did. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
remember that.
to Mount Gay, and I did like, you know, some of the distillery tours over there, and just getting that experience of rum and being able to like taste all these different rums. I came back to whiskey and I was so excited to, you know, taste these ex-rum cask whiskeys, or just to have whiskey in general to see if maybe I could pick notes out in my whiskey that I found in rum. And so I think just the more I learn and the more I branch out of whiskey and learn about all of these different spirits, or even in the same category, you know, whether it's bourbon or, you know, Indian whiskey or Japanese whiskey or whatever the case is, I just feel like it adds to my overall appreciation of spirits in general.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's been my experience as well. It's just I asked the question, and we talked earlier about how our interests you would think they would narrow, like we become more specific or particular about things, but they've expanded. I do think exploring other spirits and just different different styles of whiskey has helped me understand and appreciate the place for malt. Like I understand more about how it exists in the whole broader spectrum of all spirits, you know, and forgive me, this is just sort of off the cuff. If I'm not articulating this as well as I'd like to, but it's just, you know, when you're drinking malt whiskey, or only one style of whiskey, let's just say, or only one type of spirit, you sort of start to take for granted some different aspects of the spirit.
For sure.
And it's almost like traveling, right? Like when if you don't travel, it's like, oh, this is all I know. But when you go somewhere else, you think, wow, you know, the public bathrooms in the U.S. are really clean. I really like that. Like and that's just a random thing. They're really clean in a lot of places. But, you know, that's an example. Like you don't think about that.
Right.
Or you think like, oh, maybe I don't like this so much about my home or whatever. And so with whiskey, it's like that too. I've tried to explore other spirits, not to just find more things to love, but also because it puts things into perspective, you know, for me a bit more. And I still love malt whiskey. So, you know,
of course. I feel like it grows your love for it. You know, your love for malt gets bigger, but you're also bringing in all of these other, you know, variables that, you know, are opening other doors for you. And, you know, I wasn't a rum drinker, but whiskey has made me appreciate the spirit, you know, to where I do enjoy it now. So
yeah,
it's a funny web.
on that note, Sipsy Russell says G8.11 is really good. Tropical fruit and quite different being grain. I'm almost reminded of a high-end, well-aged Irish. To which Justin says, you know, I haven't always been a grain guy, but tropical fruit and whiskeys is my jam. And Ben mentioned rum cake tasting the other day. I think we both did.
Yes.
It sounds good. And yeah, I'm with you. Like that's exactly it. I mean, I wasn't always a grain guy, and actually for a while I shied away from grain whiskey and preferred malt. But by just letting my guard down and just saying, you know what, I'm going to judge it for what it is and not compare it to just the one thing I'm most familiar with. It's really increased my appreciation for it. You know?
Yeah, I think if you poured that blind for people and didn't tell them that it was a grain, or you didn't tell them anything about it, I think people would be very surprised by that whiskey.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
Whiskey and Donut says SMWS has excelled at showcasing the brilliance in young whiskey. Yeah, what do you think about this? I mean, you mentioned the young and sprightly. I mean, what is it about younger whiskey? Do you have a preference? Do you think age really matters, or do you just think it's just about the whiskey itself?
I think there's so many variables that go into making a great whiskey. That's, you know, a lot of people believe a lot of different things when it comes to that. And I think there's, you know, a lot that goes into it. But for me, like, I love young Islay whiskeys. That's probably my favorite in the young whiskey category are young Islay whiskeys. Because you're tasting everything. You're not getting, you know, a lot of oak influence. You're really just tasting like the true spirit of a whiskey. And there's just so much character to it, and it's so alive and bright on your palate. It's like, you know, it's like a bounce house of just flavors going on in your mouth, and they're so fun to drink. I think you can really sit with the young whiskey, like when I sat with, you know, 95.32, because I had Gerald taste it with me, and we sat there and talked about this whiskey for 20 minutes. Like, it's just, you taste it and you're getting one flavor, and then 5 minutes later you're getting something else, because it's young and just so vibrant and alive on your palate, and it's not been masked by anything. And they're masked. I don't really mean masked, but it's not been, you know, there's no other really big influence, you know, especially from the cask that you're getting. You're just really getting the spirit, and I love that. That's just me, though. Do you like young whiskey, or like, what do you think?
Yeah, I like it all. I mean, I think there's a time and place for everything. I think to the point that was made by Whiskey and Donuts, SMWS has excelled at it. I think the fact when you have a young whiskey that's just pure, cask strength, unfiltered, you know, natural as is, I think that, and you have the full heat and intensity of the spirit,
Yeah.
That to me is a little different than from some of the more common, what you find on the shelf, sort of diluted, and young whiskeys that are just kind of put out there. I mean, no disrespect, you know, because that's the reality for a lot of people. We're very fortunate to be able to taste whiskey as I'm describing, but there is something for like a young, just intense. That's full of promise and optimism. Yeah. And I think the cask strength nature, or just the purity of it, is really has opened my mind up to young whiskey. So I think the full impact, you can't replicate that, you know, with anything else. So.
And I wish more people would like get into young whiskey and really give it a chance, because there's so much happening there, and there's so much to learn from a young whiskey.
Yeah. So, yeah.
If you haven't had a young whiskey yet, like an under 10 whiskey, I highly recommend it.
Yeah. SMWS 800.13 bounce Haas. Want the credit. Okay.
Yes.
800.13 would be the 800th distillery. And we're up to what? 145 now, I want to say?
I'll be dead by then. We got to bump that number down.
Or guys, we also all come on. Let's keep growing. If we find some more members, we keep growing. You know, we're already.
That's so far away.
I think we can, you know, if we can. No, I mean, I think 800. If we've bottled from 145, and I'm just speculating. I think because there'll be more to come out, I think, you know, down the road. But yeah, 800 is different distilleries. That would be the cask number 800 point. What was it? 1.13 would be the 13th.
So the 13th one
from distillery 800. So we have to find a lot more distilleries, but believe he says, yeah, but more than just finding that many. I think we try to look for the right ones too, you know, to bottle. Anyway, so. But Steve says, yeah, so true. Sometimes the really old is best. Others, the really young stuff does it. And there's a whole range in between. I agree.
I agree.
So, anyway.
Yeah, these are fun.
All right. Well,
this was fun.
I hate to cut it. I know. I don't want to keep anybody between the weekend, and I hope this is a good kickoff. But as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be doing a lot more streams, and this is sort of just our casual get together we'll do every Friday.
And our next one is when?
So if you check out actually on our website, smwsa.com, we listed out the current events. We'll be starting off with our master classes on Tuesday, actually.
That's you.
Yeah, that's me. I'm doing the first one. It'll be the Coastal Bundle Master Class, the Coastal Korean Master Class, which will feature actually, 3 different whiskeys from the coast. And we'll be diving in. I know a lot So I mean, the actual 3-pack sold out. Unfortunately, well, fortunately or unfortunately, very soon after it was released on Tuesday, and so a lot of members will be tuning in and kind of tasting along. And if you're one of them, we'll see you there. If not, still come. We'll be doing it here on YouTube, so it'll be open to everybody who's interested in coming in, learning more about coastal whiskeys. And then you're doing the next day, right? So Wednesday.
Yep. Mine is Wednesday, and I will be covering the Highland whiskeys, which I'm very excited about. There are some fun ones in there. So
yeah, and
I'll bring some fun facts to that master tasting. You know, I'm all about that. So we'll have some good information in there.
Yeah, and then we're going to take a break on Thursday because I know a lot of other content creators in the Whiskey Tube are also streaming on Thursdays, and so we'll take a break on Thursday and then come back on Friday. We won't do the virtual vaults this coming Friday, but we'll do the space side Korean masterclass, which Zach Kimball will be hosting. Zach's our colleague based in Florida, who is somewhere in the chat. So yeah, next week is packed with different streams. There'll be different masterclasses. Obviously, the focus is tasting, get together, and just learning as much as we can to really just enhance our knowledge about these regions. And then we got some really exciting stuff. Jen and I were just talking about this before. We had some really exciting live streams coming with some special people coming down the line. So subscribe and click the notification button, as they always say, and we'll see you then. So
yeah, well, I'm empty, but cheers.
I'm
gonna fix that. Hold on. I'm like weird. I can't. I'm weird about cheers. Exactly. All right.
Ooh, I just had the remnants of this peated whiskey, and I'm just pouring this space cider, a mini blend. So, all right, everybody, cheers. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next time.
See you next week.
Lonja.